Hey guys, it's me again, and today I'm going to talk about the Kuva Hind. And honestly, the Kuva Hind is a little too weak for its MR. I feel like it needs like a little bit of a buff to like really stand out. But honestly, right now it feels more like a Wraith version than a Kuva version, honestly. The reason why I say that is they did not increase the damage from the regular Hind. It still does 30 damage. Now this is a 5-round burst weapon, so it deals 150 damage per burst, which is slightly higher than the Tiberon Prime. And it's on par with the Dex Sybaris, but it's worse than the regular Sybaris and the Sybaris Prime. Now they did bump up the semi-auto fire's damage from the regular Hind from 60 to 90, but that really doesn't help this weapon at all. Now the Kuva version can get higher damage per burst with its bonuses, but that's really not going to save this weapon. For example, I have a 31% radiation bonus on this Kuva Hind, which gives it a per burst damage of 196.5, which is just below the Quartak and the Kuva Quartak, but that's really not going to save this weapon. Now, if we compare this weapon to the Tiberon Prime, you notice that the Tiberon Prime has better supporting stats in almost every firing mode. It has better crit damage in every firing mode, and it has better crit chance in the burst firing mode, which is the mode that most people use, but it has like a little less crit chance in the semi-auto and the full auto department, but it has better crit damage. It also has a lower magazine of 42 versus the Kuva Hind's 90, but that 90 magazine size actually is not that big, mainly because it's a 5-round burst, meaning you can shoot this weapon, about 18 times? Now, in all the firing modes for the Kuva Hind, the burst, the semi-auto, and the full auto, they all have some sort of problem. Now, the burst fire is kind of slow. It feels slow, like there's a noticeable delay before the gun actually fires. Like, you probably wouldn't be able to notice it on video, but you could feel it in the game. Now, this is kind of fixed with fire rate mods, but it makes the gun feel very clunky. It's not very accurate, kind of has high recoil, which kind of neuters its performance in the longer ranges. Also has a lower zoom than most burst fire weapons, so it's going to be harder to see the head of your enemies at those ranges. So in your Excellus slot, you're going to need to choose whether you're going to fix the accuracy or the recoil. If you fix the recoil, right, it's way more stable, but that doesn't fix the spread problem. Now if you go ahead and swap in guided ordnance, which you can actually get from the acolytes right now, right, I'm going to spawn in a heavy gunner that's paused. So normal recoil of the weapon, normal accuracy. If I hit the heavy gunner, and then you can see it's very accurate. Now it's not as high as the Sybaris Prime, for example. So if I go over to the Sybaris Prime and show you its recoil, this has much higher recoil, but hey, at least it doesn't have any spread at all. But there's a reason why no one fucking uses this thing. Now, thankfully, with the addition of weapon Excellus slots, you can fix that problem with the Sybaris Prime and make this weapon actually sort of usable in the medium to long ranges. But most people are just going to tell you to use the Tiberon Prime because it is better. So, now, the semi-auto mode of the Kuva Hind consumes 3 ammo per shot, but it only fires 1 bullet at a time. And I don't even have mods on this Kuva Hind right now, as you can see, except for Gynornis. But still, only fires 1 bullet per 3 ammo, which is unlike the Tiberon, which consumes only 1 ammo per shot out of its semi-auto mode. And its full auto mode is kind of slow, which can be fixed with fire rate mods. But it's also kind of weak, but I'm actually kind of okay with this mode being kind of weak, because if it was any stronger, it would actually be like a little bit better than the Kuva Karak, because it being slash-based and the Kuva Karak being impact-based. But again, you're going to have to fix these problems with mods, and unlike the Kuva Brahma, you actually can fix them with mods, though you're going to have to sacrifice some things. So this is the build that I'd recommend you run with this thing, because not only does fire rate make this weapon feel way better, and the whole stability is very nice. It's a lot less clunky to use, and you can use it in the longer ranges like you should with any burst weapon in this game. Probably wondering why I'm running Vigilant armaments over 100 munitions. Now, the way 100 munitions works is the slash procs scale off of the weapon's total damage. However, since this weapon doesn't have a whole lot of total damage, I can run Vigilant armaments and I'd get a better benefit over running honey munitions. So I'm just going to swap 100 munitions in here and show you what that looks like. I can barely see the head because of the low zoom of this weapon, but I was down to 25 rounds in the magazine. Vigilante armaments against the heavy gunner. Missed the burst there, but I'm down to 40 rounds instead of 25. So you can see it makes a noticeable difference. If you didn't really care about the low fire rate of this weapon, or you could get over the clunkiness of the feel or something like that, then you want to run this build instead, where you add 100 munitions. And this is what that build would look like. I think I can let her die. Even though it is technically better from a damage standpoint, it just doesn't feel that good. Now, if we compare that to the Tiberon, running the Tiberon with a standard hybrid build, right? Now, that might not look favorable to the Tiberon, right? It looks about the same, if not slightly worse than the Kuva Hind, but if we go ahead and swap out 100 munitions for fire rate, run the exact same build, even though that this weapon is puncture-based instead of slash-based, and it actually has a decent amount of damage on it, meaning that it would actually benefit more from 100 munitions than the Kuva Hind. I'm just going to run the same build just for continuity's sake. And then fight the heavy gunner here. I have to reload there. But now the Kuva Hind doesn't really look so good anymore, now does it? And keep in mind that the Tiberon Prime is a lower MR weapon that is easier to get than the Kuva Hind. It has better supporting stats, even though the Kuva Hind, on paper, should have a higher damage because it shoots 5 rounds instead of 3. So on paper, the Kuva Hind should be better, but it just isn't. It doesn't feel that good. I would not recommend that you'd upgrade to this weapon over the Tiberon Prime, because Tiberon Prime is just as better for less. Basically the weapon has better value over the Kuva Hind because it's cheaper and it's easier to get, mainly especially since the relics were basically given out for the Tiberon Prime in modes that give you like radiant relics, for example Sanctuary Onslaught. So if you've done a lot of Sanctuary Onslaught, chances are you have a ton of Tiberon Prime relics. So if you don't already have the Tiberon Prime, chances are you can probably go get it. And even if you don't have any of those relics, chances are you could buy it from the market for like 30 platinum, probably even less. So until this weapon gets a little bit of a base damage buff, I wouldn't recommend you get this weapon over the Tiberon Prime. I just keep using the Tiberon Prime. Or if you really want to use the Sybaris Prime, slap on a stabilizer mod in the Exilus and use that. Anyway guys, that's all for me. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.